Hi guys, if you feel you get something out of this channel and would like to ensure that quality content is uploaded on a regular basis, please consider becoming a patron by clicking on the support us notification that will occasionally appear on the upper right hand corner, or by clicking the Patreon link in the description box below. Thank you very much for your support. I've been meaning to make a video about this one for some time now, a number of years. Is something that happened back in October 2011. An experience I had when I saw David Icke here live in Melbourne. It was amazing. Initially, he only booked one show, actually, and I wasn't able to get a ticket in time. I was quite disappointed. But then, due to popular demand, he did a second one, so I did go to that one, and it was a perfect birthday present, actually. Now, this video is all about vindicating David. I realize he has been vindicated already lately, in the past few years, mostly from the fact that so much of what he said has come true, or is beginning to come true. Either way, it's just so many more people understand that he was right on the money now than they did, say, 2 or 3 or 5 years ago, or even a few months ago. Whatever. Everything is going so exponentially now, so more and more people are seeing it. So then when they look at him and he says the stuff, it doesn't sound crazy, because it's, he's basically describing the world we're living in, whereas that seemed crazy to a lot of people a few years ago. Now it's just becoming so obvious, but it would not hurt to I guess just help promote him even more. If there's 10 people that are David Icke fans and take him serious, I wouldn't mind helping that along, pushing it along and making it 12, 13, 20, doubling it, tripling it. The more the merrier. So yeah, this is my way of telling people this guy's the real deal. It's a personal experience I had. It's I guess you could say it's quote unquote paranormal experience, psychic experience, call it spiritual experience, whatever. Now, actually, at that time, in the preceding, 6 months or so, during that year anyway, my faith in him, so to speak, had been shaken. Because during that period, maybe about a year before that, or something, during that time, there were all these rumours. There was that picture, like it was photoshopped, I'm pretty sure that one was photoshopped, of him being in a Masonic lodge with his brothers, dressed in full Masonic regalia and all this. There was a picture like that floating around. I haven't got Photoshop, I'm not a Photoshop expert. Sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't. I guess a lot of things are subjective, right? You could say, okay, that was real, or that was photoshopped. A lot of the time people, even if they're given proof about something, they still reject it, or the other way around. People believe stuff without having proof at all. They just want to believe it. So I was on the fence with that one, but mostly I thought it was bullshit. But there was the other thing as well during that time. All this theory about him being a son of David Rockefeller, the Rockefeller that died recently at 101. So apparently the theory went that David Icke was an illegitimate son of his, or one of the Rockefeller brothers. In any case, the story was that, and a lot of you know this, almost everyone knows this one, but for those who don't, I have to explain it. The story was that David Icke looks remarkably similar to a young David Rockefeller Jr. I don't remember his name exactly, but it was the recently deceased David Rockefeller's father. Okay, and you look at pictures of him when he was young. So these things make you think. You know, we never really do know who the other person is, right? We see somebody being interviewed, writing books, making YouTube videos, doing talks around the world. You don't know we don't know who the person is. I mean, we do have, you call it clairvoyant, psychic. All right, a lot of us, we do have that. A lot of people in this scene do have those abilities, and I'm one of them. And in particular, one of the things I've been able to do for a number of years now, for at least around a decade, is to be able to read people when I'm in the same room with them. Like if I can do it over social media and stuff. Like if I look at somebody's picture or their profile, you look at a person's Facebook page and stuff, and you can feel an energy. Whether they've got positive vibrational frequency, let's say, or if there's something wrong there, or if there's something very wrong. Like if you feel like a black magic kind of energy. So I have done, and I do this type of thing. Sometimes the ability is heightened. It sort of goes up and down. Sometimes it's a bit blunted. Many factors play a role in that one. Energetically, sometimes we're not functioning at our best. But more or less, I do have this power, skill is probably a better word, and in particular, if it's face to face, if I'm talking to the person, or if they're in the same room somewhere. I mean, the lecture hall was pretty big where I went to see him. It wasn't like he was a couple of meters next to me, away from me, but it still doesn't matter. I mean, the fact that he was whatever. 50 or 100 meters away, it still works because he's right there. I can see him. Okay, it's not a picture I'm looking at. You're looking at the actual aura of the person. You're hearing its voice and all this stuff. So anyway, and that was pretty much 99% of the reason. I mean, I can't believe I'm actually saying this because I'm a massive David Icke fan, but I do have a very skeptical, cynical side also. I'm a Virgo rising. I guess that's from that one there. So I thought, I need to check this out because this is not a David Icke cult. Even though he is practically infallible as far as his track record of being proven correct. Of his predictions of all this, the globalist New World Order agenda and so forth. It's like he's like Nostradamus meets whatever. He's basically predicting everything that these guys are doing, and he did it years ahead. Nevertheless, I thought, okay, what if this is some very just extremely highly sophisticated psyop / control the position, or God knows what. You never know. Okay, the thing that gets you also is like, well, how does he know all this stuff a bit too much? He seems to know a bit too much about the reptilian nature of these bloodlines and so forth, and he comes out of nowhere, seemingly out of nowhere. Nobody really, I don't like that phrase, actually. I probably should make a separate video on that. The fact that people keep saying, he came out of nowhere. What about rock stars? Or just a dude playing guitar in his bedroom as a teenager, and then, quote unquote, out of nowhere they became stars. No one comes out of nowhere. It's just that before they became famous, we didn't know them. And then when they do burst out on the scene, it looks to us that it's out of nowhere. The person existed before, who did stuff. Maybe they were studying these things for 20 years before they came out of nowhere or whatever. And you're like, how does he know all this stuff? Maybe that's all he does. Maybe that's all he's been reading about for 20 years. So, but still, nonetheless, I also had that bug of skepticism. I thought, yeah, he seems to know a bit too much about this stuff. It's almost like you can almost think, well, is he kind of an insider? Or maybe, I thought at that time also, I thought, okay, maybe he's a benevolent insider. I don't even know if that's a term. I guess I just invented the phrase now, benevolent insider. You know, somebody part of the families and the main families, and somehow just decided that he doesn't want to go along with it, and he said, okay, I'm going to get out there and do a complete 180 and expose this and etc. blah blah blah. And if it really is somebody that's pretty high up, like that theory said about him being a son of one of the Rockefellers, they can't kill him, they can't really stop him in ways that they stop other people that are not part of the clan. But then it becomes a question of, do any of these people actually ever awaken spiritually? Do they even have that capacity to connect, to have such a high connection to the higher self? I mean, there's a lot of theories that say that technically they don't have a higher self in the way that we do, you know. So I mean, we could be talking about that aspect of it forever. But the point is that I was a little bit shaken, like confused about, like I was, because before that, 2 or 3 years before that, I totally had no doubts about Icke's authenticity. Okay, I had bought my first book of his was The Biggest Secret. I bought it when it had actually come out back in, what was it, 98 or 99. I thought it was a joke. I saw an ad about it in the New Dawn, the Australian magazine, the New Dawn, or Nexus. Sorry, it was either Nexus or New Dawn. I used to love to read that in my early to mid 20s. I was what was it? 23, 24, whatever. I was born in 75, so whatever that was when it came out, 99. I was about 24, and I got that, and that was my first book of his. So I've been on this Icke rabbit hole from then. I'm looking at the date now on my computer, so practically it's 20 years. So I was convinced already. I had read the book. It's not like because there's newer people now that perhaps they've just seen his videos, because there's so many of them now. But back then there wasn't. The internet was very new at the time. I didn't have a computer till years later. So it wasn't a big thing watching YouTube videos of these truther people. So it was the book, and I've never really heard anything about, like, for a decade after that. No one really voiced any concerns about this guy. There were a very tiny amount of us that were into him in the early days, and it was very difficult to meet people actually that quote unquote got it about the reptilian thing and so forth. Now it's become this massive, it's almost, Jesus Christ, it's almost mainstream at this point, the reptilian thing. It's absolutely astounding the way that has happened within 20 years. But yeah, like I said, for the first 10 years after The Biggest Secret came out, no one really, apart from, there's people that say that everyone is a shill, like absolutely. There's even the website, I don't know if it's still up, there's like some link that I saw a few years ago where this guy had a list of all the shills, and he was pretty much an A to Z, every single person, every single name in the entire alternative scene, he named them all as shills. So there's people that just go completely overboard with the paranoia, not trusting anyone. Particularly like the Christian type truthers, the full-on Bible Belt types, like where they think that anybody that even says, like, even speaks about meditation, even, let's say, automatically they're shilled. So, you know, I guess there were those people that probably never liked him from day one, but there was nothing, no serious accusations or anything, or arguments that were counter to David Icke's authenticity. Because, I mean, all this reptilian thing and everything in The Biggest Secret and whatever came afterwards, it was just cutting edge, mind-blowing stuff. But anyway, I was a bit skeptical at that time when this David Icke is a secret Mason / David Icke is a Rockefeller thing was out on the internet. So since I pretty much have that Jedi-like ability, where if we're in the same vicinity, you know, it'd be pretty hard to lie to me. It'd be pretty hard to sort of mask it from me. If you were a baby-eating black magician or something, I would know. Or whatever else, something else that's not as bad as that, even mildly. Even if there's something mildly not right. I mean, I guess we all have that. You know, everyone's got a hunch. We just don't listen to it. I guess if you meditate a lot and do all the stuff that I have been doing since my mid-20s, you get... it's just like it's like doing bodybuilding, but it's like the spiritual equivalent, the mental equivalent. Okay, so it's like you're building up these innate skills that we all have. So anyway, enough of the intro, I guess now. So now I'll describe to you lovely people what happened on the day. So it was on a Saturday. I remember it clearly. It was on a Saturday. My birthday is in the first few weeks of October. It's on the 9th. So this one was, I don't know, about a week later. It was on the 20th or something. I don't know. I mean, it would be. I'm betting there's probably going to be some synchronicity with one of the viewers that will watch this. They'll probably, you know, someone will pop up and say, oh, hey, yeah, I was there at that one. And maybe they can comment underneath here and tell me what the exact date was. It was something like that, 20-something October. So it still counted as a birthday present for me. And it was a great surprise because, like I said, I thought they were not, that I missed it, and then they were not going to have another one. So due to popular demand, he booked another one. In, so I went. It was pretty cheap, whatever, $60 or $80, you know. So that was good actually as well in itself. The price, when I saw the price, I thought, oh, really, under $100? I think it was 80. I'm pretty sure like 70 or 80. So I thought, okay, obviously this guy is not in it for the money, because you wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. I thought I assumed it would be at least 100. Like, if it was 100, I would have thought, okay, that's pretty cheapish still. It's like borderline. If it started going over 100, I would have started thinking, okay, this is, you know, is this David Icke or the Rolling Stones? What's this guy up to? But clearly, it's like it doesn't. I mean, I'm sure maybe he made his money back and made a profit. Obviously, not maybe, definitely. But maybe he just charged double. Maybe his expenses were up to $40 per ticket, and then the rest was the profit. So I mean, you could have put it up to 120, 150, but no, it was only 80 or whatever, somewhere thereabouts. So that's always a good sign when they have, you know, not super cheap but reasonable prices. I mean, you know, he's got to make money. I have no problem with these guys. They make money from this. I mean, they're doing great work for the planet. So anyway, and now when the day came, a lot of you, I don't know how to put this, a lot of you would know. It's like when you're going to have, I mean, those of you, the listeners now, who have had or who regularly have energetic healing. You're like, you know, if you go and get Reiki sessions, or if you yourself are a healer and you do it for self-healing or give healings to other people, it's this amazing thing that happens sometimes when you're about to have a pretty powerful session, which will make you confront a lot of baggage of the shadow self, I guess, that there's something that blocks you, that we try, like our ego, our lower chakras, our reptilian brain, I guess. Well, I'm talking about David Icke, so might as well mention the reptilian brain. It stops you. Subconsciously, it knows that it's in trouble. It's like, oh shit, they're onto me. It's like you have this virus, this infection, this entity, or something. I mean, that's extreme to say it in that way, to put it that way, but you know what I mean. I mean, this entity inside you, so to speak, does not want to be gotten rid of, so he makes up excuses to not go to the healing and stuff. I've had this happen to me many times. Like, you book a session, like with a healer, or sometimes going to a psychic, and you don't want to go. Like to the good ones, the ones that just know stuff, not those silly tarot reader types. And you just don't want to go. Like when the previous night or something, or in the morning when you're getting ready, or whatever, you just have this massive hesitation. And whenever this has happened to me, I do push through it. I do eventually go. There's never been a time where I've cancelled one of these things because of that hesitation. Every single time this feeling has been with me before a session, some massive breakthrough happens when I go to it, and it's a bit painful because the ego resists change, even if the change is going to be ultimately beneficial from the higher self's perspective. The ego doesn't give a fuck about the higher self. So basically, this is the exact thing that happened in that morning, that Saturday morning. Now, Icke, obviously the Icke fans are listening to this one, so all of you know, I was going to say as most of you know, but as all of you will know now, listening, this guy is a machine. He's like Neo, he's a machine. Like how Neo was learning Kung Fu or whatever, 10 hours straight when they put him on a machine. This guy, Icke, the real Neo, real life Neo, basically from 10 in the morning to 8 p.m. at night, he did like 10 hours straight shows. So this one as well, I think he doesn't do that anymore. I think he's made him shorter now. His latest tour, sort of a more succinct version of his information. But back then, this is like 7 years ago now, 6.5 years ago, he was in the zone back then when he was doing the 10-hour stuff. And he started at 10 in the morning or something like that. It was they had the start time as 10:30, somewhere there. And I was fine till Friday night or whatever. I was over the moon. I thought, fuck, I'm seeing David Icke. This is great. Like, it's not. You kind of feel, a lot of you will know this now, would have had experiences like this where you think, when something so incredibly synchronistic and awesome happens, where you never thought this was going to happen, or it's almost like, God giving you a second chance kind of thing. Those types of scenarios where, like with the Icke ticket, where I thought, I lost it for good. God knows, who knows when he's going to come back to Melbourne. Oh no, I'm never going to see him. I really wanted to go. Please, I wish you had like a second one. It's like almost having a personal genie and saying, oh, I wish. And it happened. I wanted to see him, and I almost got you almost get the feeling in those cases where you think, oh my God, it's like the whole universe did all it could to make me happy. Like basically because I wanted it, it all happened because I wanted to go. So I kind of felt special because it was close to my birthday as well. So I thought, oh my God, I don't even know how to process this. So this was until that Friday night, and then and everything was fine. I thought, oh great, I'm going to wake up tomorrow. Exciting. It's great. It's like going and seeing whatever, your favorite band or something for the first time. It was massive. But then in the morning, and I'm not a morning person. I'll say it right now. I'm absolutely not a morning person, and this has caused a lot of trouble with my matrix, my regular matrix life with jobs and so forth. And plus, I've been self-employed a lot of the time, most of the time in my life, and it causes trouble with that too. But this time it wasn't that. I did wake up, there was time. There was plenty of time. I was going to take the train because it was in the CBD. But it wasn't a problem. I was just going to get up, whatever. I didn't care about eating. Even if I was slightly late, I was just gotten up. I was going to drive to the nearest train station and then take the train down to the city, right? That was the most practical way to do it. But somehow I got that thing again that I was describing a couple of minutes ago. Like when you don't want to go to a particular healing session or something because somehow your subconscious, it just knows that it's just something, you're going to get rid of some virus, some mind virus, some, something in your aura is going to get rid of or shifted, or some vibration is going to change and become higher, or however you want to, describe it or understand the process of, of trying to conceptualize what really happens during these energetic healings, where it's all, invisible to the naked eye, but definitely something massive is happening. However we want to describe it, the thing is there's something there that doesn't want to be touched. It doesn't want to be busted or gotten rid of or whatever, called out. So I had this thing again. I had it in a massive way. So it was a miracle I actually went. It was a miracle I actually ended up going. I ended up, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, I ended up going at 2 o'clock, 2:30 or something. I was like sitting there laying in bed like a retard. I'm like, what the the fuck is the matter with me? I knew what it was. Well, it was a rhetorical thing. I knew what it was. It's the thing I just described. But I thought, man, I haven't had it this bad before, ever. Like it was... Like I said, this has happened a lot of times because I had a regular Reiki healer at the time. This was before I became Reiki 1 myself. I was a Reiki 1 at the time. That was 2011. I did Reiki 1 in February 2011. So I was already a Reiki 1 at the time. But I mean, I still had a regular Reiki healer that I used to see for about a year or so at the time. But when this hesitation had happened, it's not like I'd call up and say, oh, my grandmother died, I can't make it. No, because I'm tough. Like I might hesitate, but then I'm eventually going to do it. I just push through. I push myself, But with this one, 4 bloody hours. Like I said, it's not like I slept in. I was up sitting in bed from like 9 in the morning or something. And I finally bloody got up at about 1 or whatever, God knows, I don't know exactly when it was, the whole timing of it, but basically, moral of the story is I ended up going at like 2:30. I couldn't believe it. Because the previous night, the way my mentality and my vibe was about this whole thing, I was like, yay, you would have expected me like to get up at like... at 6 in the morning and prepare and take food and water and this and that and double check the things and so it can be absolutely perfect and go early, blah 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 blah, all this, because also you can meet people there. It literally is like a rock star event with David Icke, as we know. So it would have been, I was actually, now that I mentioned it, I actually remembered it in real time. It just came to me now. I was thinking of that, of actually the people that you would meet there. Like, I wanted to go early to wait in line and all this stuff, and to start networking, to meet all the other Ike fans and so on. But I missed out on that as well. But I did it. I did a little bit of that later, like when there was a break at some point. At 4 o'clock or something, there was a short break, and I went out and I saw that. But the point is, I ended up going at 2. Okay, so now, what happened? Well. Check this one out. I was sitting, because I got in late. It wasn't completely packed out, but there were only a few seats like at the back. So I went. It wasn't entirely the last row, but it was pretty much. Maybe there were like another 7 or 8 rows of seats, and then it ended, and then it was like the entrance and an exit, basically the door that I came in through, right? So it was pretty far away. Like I could see him. He was like a tiny little, I mean, he looked to me about a couple of inches high. So what's that? What distance would that be? I guess 100 meters away or something like that. I don't really know off the top of my head now. I'm just saying that, but I'm just trying to give you guys the best visual description of basically how far I was, and you guys can sort of work it out. Now, I don't remember. Maybe I should have kept notes, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, I've been meaning many, many times to make this video, but maybe divine timing was for it to come out now during the year of the Great Awakening, so maybe it's best. But I don't remember exactly when I started seeing this, but I mean, maybe it was straight away, maybe it was within, half an hour of seeing him or something. But anyway, at some point, like I said, could have been straight away, could have been whatever, in 5 minutes, but at some point, I saw, and mind you, and I apologize now for the fact that the intro to this was pretty long, talking to you about the psychic abilities and the hesitation from going to the Reiki healings in the past, blah, blah, blah. But it all fits. It all fits in with what I'm going to say now. So this is why I had to preface with this. So, but explaining a little bit more now about this, about the psychic powers, abilities, say, the X-Men powers that I've developed. So now, basically, I've seen it all. I've seen the bad, the good, the good, the bad, and the ugly, basically. Like angelic beings, totally opposite ones, and anything in between. I've even once I did a trance channeling, and I got a message from my partners at the time. I got a message from her deceased mother, and the phrase was, I don't remember what it was exactly now, but whatever was said, it made her break down crying, and then she freaked out because she wasn't, I guess there was a reason for us to be together, but to be perfectly honest, she really was not on the wavelength, quote unquote, so she wasn't really into all these things that I was into. When we met, I was slowly getting her into it more and more, meditation and all that. So this was a bit. It went way above her head. So she kind of freaked out, and she kept saying over and over again. She said, "But how did you know? But the only person that ever knew was." There was no one in the room. It's like, this is what my mother said just before she died or something. It was something she had told her that only her and her mother knew, because it was only them two in the room when the mother told her that. And then I gave her that exact message. And, when you do trance channeling, as whoever is listening now that has done it, that does it, you will know what I'm talking about. It's like you just say stuff. It's like, the verbal equivalent of automatic writing, I guess. You just, stuff comes out and you don't even think of it consciously. You don't realize what you're saying. Well, you do hear it, but you don't control. Anyway, whatever. It's too hard to explain now. But I've done stuff like that. I've done things like I can't see auras per se. That's a bizarre thing. Like, I can feel the energies, but I technically can't see, because some people can see the colors around a person. I can't do that. I'm not going to lie. Whatever I say about my abilities, it's legit. So if I don't do something, I say it. So I can't see the colors, but I can sense it. Or I can see beings and things, light beings and whatever. I get messages from them. It's just this whole, I'll be talking forever about this one. But so I've seen a whole lot of stuff, like during healing sessions and deep meditation sessions and all this stuff, and healing sessions. This is both when I've gotten a healing and when I've given to people, and all sorts of things have come through. Randomly entities pop up. When you're doing a self-healing or meditating, or and angelic beings, archangels and things during meditation. So these things for me, for other people, they might get scared. They might think, oh, it never happens to me, or oh, this is not real, or you're just making it up, you're imagining it. But anyway, I'm one of those types that this is just basically for years now, well, for a decade at least, more. It's basically been the norm for me. When I don't regularly have experiences like that, I think something's wrong. I get bored. I get almost depressed sometimes, because I'm like, Matrix life is just so horribly boring for me. Horrendously boring. Deadly boring. So this stuff is just basically second nature. So nothing, basically. The reason I took my time to go through all that list of all this stuff is to really, so I can really hit home that basically nothing surprises me as far as seeing visions of light beings and archangels, or even, whatever. I've seen reptilians and things like that. I've been attacked by them. Oh, shit. That's another... I know it's a relevant topic to a David Icke video, but never mind. Maybe a completely new video series can be made about the reptilian thing. So, to cut a long story not as long as it potentially could be, because this is definitely not short, I saw this massive being of light on top of David Icke's head. Basically, and this is why, and now we're getting back to why I was describing the visual before. Like, basically, David Icke was however many meters or yards or feet away, depending on if you're a metric system geek or not. So, yeah, he looked like 2 inches tall or whatever, so I don't know how far that was. But what I did see was this massive light being that was... I mean, when he does his thing, he walks around. It's not like a podium that he sits in front of in a microphone and just sits there like stationary. He walks around on the stage. So that thing was just on top of him, following him. It was like wherever he was going, that was like directly. It was always above his crown chakra, but it wasn't like a few inches or a foot above his head. Or it started, that's where it started, let's say, a foot or something above his head. Oh God, and it went like for meters and meters. It was like, I'm trying to think now, about 3 or 4 times as tall as him. And it was, he didn't have a distinct form. It's not like I was seeing, because I'd seen, I mean, I'm a big Archangel Michael fan. I have a really good connection with him. So I've seen all that before I saw that, before that day. So, but it wasn't something like that. It wasn't like I looked at it and said, okay, this is Archangel Michael, or this is something. It wasn't, I didn't know what it was, but I knew, sorry, let me rephrase that. I didn't know the identity of it, but I knew what it was. It was just the most powerful, incredible, overwhelming light being I've ever seen through the psychic senses. It was just, and there and then, I thought, good Lord, I'm never going to doubt this guy again, not for a second. I mean, he always was, and always will be, basically exactly what he claims to be. I mean, all these stories, that thing about, that Peruvian mound where he's saying that, oh, bloody hell, the mound's talking to me, when he's in the bus or something, and he looks at the mound and he hears the voice in his head. It's like, come to me or whatever. And see, because I've had experiences like that, like Kundalini awakening type of stuff, where your body shakes, like in an epileptic seizure type of thing, where if someone was, if my room was had a secret camera in it or something, and somebody saw that, they would think, or if a friend or someone was in the room watching, they'll probably call the ambulance. They'll think I'm having an epileptic seizure. I think actually my partner, the one I spoke about earlier, something similar to that happened, I think, and she thought something was wrong. And then I had to calm her down and explain us and say, look, this is a materialistic science, and this is the, there is epilepsy, but then there's also when you get like the spiritually charged, I guess, from the central sun or whatever, the higher self or whatever, however you can, define as what is meant to be happening during one of these Kundalini episodes. So I've had this stuff in my late 20s that started. All right, so it doesn't happen all the time. I've had it a handful of times, and you feel literally, I mean, exactly what Icke describes about when he's on the mound and all this energy. It's like being electrocuted, essentially. It really is, because probably, I mean, technically, it would actually be the same thing, but it's just probably like a higher, like a finer, higher version of electricity, I guess. That's what I guess. I mean, spiritual energy is, really. Think about it. I mean, everything is energy. That's another thing too, Matter is just frozen or slowed down spiritual energy. It's spiritual energy of a very low vibration, and it looks quote unquote solid. And this is why there's a lot of people that don't believe him and think he's full of shit, because they have not actually had those experiences themselves. But when he says all of these things, I'm like, oh yeah, far out. That was like that, or that was like this, or that was that. I'm thinking back to things that I have done, and the way he's describing it, you can just, you don't sort of think he's saying the truth. He is, because it's like, shit, I couldn't have put it better myself. Like, he's basically just another guy out there in the world that had the exact same experience, but it just so happens that he's been appointed by the Prime Creator to have a massive platform, and he did it earlier than a lot of us did. Basically had these experiences, which at the time a lot of people, almost nobody in the public arena was mentioning things like that. Now it's becoming more commonplace. So these are the things that differentiates the full-on Icke fans, the ones that are fence sitters, and then the third category, which is people that I don't like at all, the ones that are completely anti-Icke, because it's not that it's like I'm part of the Icke cult. This is not like brainwashed by the Icke, that whatever he says is 100% true and you cannot question him, and etc. That's not the case. The thing is, the guy's like a yardstick. He basically, a person's reaction to Icke, I mean, depending on which of the three categories that I mentioned before they belong to, like super fans, on the fence, or Icke haters, that sort of roughly puts a person in categories. Like, the fans are probably people, I should stop saying probably. The super fans are people that are pretty much at his level, similar or at his level, okay? That have had similar experiences, that have been already aware of these things before they even came across him, or when they read him, they, something clicked and they got it straight away. And then he goes lower down the line, there's the people that are kind of, yeah, he's alright, but, and there's others that completely hate him. To me, it's just a yardstick. It's like, okay, if somebody completely doesn't like this guy at all, then there's something wrong. It's just if they don't understand these types of things that Icke is talking about, there is something about them energetically that I'm not interested in, that I would not, I would not want to hang out with people like that, to be involved with it, because, like I said, again, I would say it's not a David Icke cult. It's more like, what type of person you're dealing with if they're going to be criticizing somebody like that. I mean, if somebody speaks legitimate stuff and then people try to rubbish his name and criticize him as if he's killed their dog or something, I'm thinking, well, something's wrong there energetically, okay? So, where was I? So, about this light. I've never seen anything like it before. And I had been seeing things like I said, I had had similar experiences. And this is why I'm in the Icke superfan camp, because I didn't have these experiences from when I bought at the time that I bought the Biggest Secret, but 2 or 3 or 4 years later, it started happening. I started meditating soon afterwards at 25, and then within a couple of years or so, so he got me from the left brain initially, because his stuff made sense. But then, if you start having the right brain, the spiritual experiences, that's when you really start getting it. But even so, this one was the most extreme thing I'd ever experienced, like as far as seeing light beings. And this thing, like I said, this thing was like 10 meters tall, man. It was incredible. And it didn't, as I was saying earlier, the fact that it didn't look like a specific, like a Michael or anything else, any one of the main archangels or whatever, it did have that angelic type of shape, okay? So, I guess maybe it was something, maybe it was Michael. I mean, that's meant to be the highest. He's the head of the seraphim and also of the archangels. So, and the seraphim in the well, if you want to take the Christian version of the cosmic hierarchy as being the default version to go by, the seraphim are meant to be the higher. I mean, it's only one step below Prime Creator. So if Michael is the head of the seraphim, maybe it was Michael, I don't know, but it was definitely the most incredible thing I've ever seen. But wait, there's more. Apart from that, also, we have the truth vibrations. Now, hear me out. I'm not talking about his first or second book. I don't know which one it was, because I haven't gotten any of the ones before The Biggest Secret. But the truth vibrations, which he coined the term, I think, for that book, for that early book. I'm not mentioning this in reference to the truth vibrations, or the way he puts it about the truth vibrations permeating the planet and then slowly growing exponentially and creating the awakening and so forth. I mean in an absolute literal sense. Now check this out, ladies and gentlemen. And again, I can't recall whether this happened. I mean, I'm pretty sure it happened almost immediately, because he started talking. When I walked in, he was talking already. It was in the middle of a talk. So I started feeling, okay, now this might be slightly more difficult to explain than the angelic being I saw. It was as if when he spoke, his words, and again, this will go back to when you hear me describe this, when I finish explaining this, you'll think crikey. This is this is exactly how David Icke basically has described the truth vibrations, actually. So, basically when he was speaking, like I said, I don't see the energies per se, like I don't see auras. I see angelic beings, but not auras. I didn't see anything like a beam of light hitting me or something, but I saw when he spoke, his words, it felt like I was being hit by a beam. Like the words, because as we know, words are vibrate, and this goes back to what I said earlier, like this will tie in perfectly with how he describes what words and vibrations and all this stuff are. Basically, I got the sense that his words were actually vibrations. It wasn't just, quote-unquote, just words. It was vibrations. It was almost like when he was speaking, it's like this invisible laser or truth beam, light beam or something, you know, a invisible vibration was hitting me when he was speaking. And I was sensing it. Literally, it was like, I mean, picture one of these. I mean, I'm a massive Star Wars fan. I love, you know, movies like that. Picture it like this massive Death Star laser beam hitting a planet, and then eventually blowing it up. But there's like a period there. I think in the old ones, when they blew up Alderaan, it happened instantaneously. But like in that newer one, that prequel, what's it called? Shit, I don't remember what it's called. The one where they, with that female lead, where it showed that how they stole the Death Star plans. That because they got the better effects now, they showed it with when they tried to blow up that planet with the Death Star. It happened slower. You know, they showed it in a more artistically sleek way this time because it's a newer film. So picture it like that, like slowly the laser like hitting you, and it's breaking down more and more layers of whatever. Let's say I have a force field around me, right? Let's say my aura is a force field, and Ike's talking, and his words is like this laser beam of truth that's hitting me, and constantly it's like aimed non-stop. It's switched on and it never goes off, like for hours and hours and hours. It keeps hitting and hitting and hitting, and as long as he talks it keeps going, right? And as that's happening, it's breaking away more layers and more layers and more layers. And I got the sense, clairvoyantly, I don't know if that's the term to use, psychically, whatever, I got the sense that he was breaking away a dark shell, like I had dark shells of ignorance around me, that's what, I mean, all of us, to a greater or lesser extent, that are currently incarnated on this rock, on this prison planet, have, to a greater or lesser degree, some kind of dark shell around our aura. Otherwise, it wouldn't, you know, there would be no point to this game. We wouldn't even be here. So, and I felt that as, you know, as time kept going by, the more I was in there, you know, half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, because it went, like I said, I went at about 2 o'clock or something, and it went till about 7 or 8. So I got about 5-6 hours out of him, you know. So anyway, and as he kept going, he kept breaking through the black stuff that I was encased in. You know, it was like a, Jesus, picture it as like one of those laser cannons you see in the Star Warsy type of things, type of films, whatever, Star Wars, Stargate, take your pick. See it as a superpowered laser cannon of amazingly high vibration spiritual energy. I mean, isn't that kind of like what a potential, hypothetical potential definition would be for the truth vibrations? If one would want, I mean, if I asked you guys, define what do you think he means when he says truth vibrations? I myself would describe it as something like that. But I mean, I'm not saying this now because it's David Icke. I would have said the same, like, let's say, if I had seen another speaker and they had the same effect on me, I still would have described it. I probably would have mentioned Icke. I probably would have said, that's what Icke says as well about the truth vibrations. But it just so happens now that, incidentally, he appears to be also the guy that has given the coolest, the most accurate definition for what this thing is, this invisible enemy that is creating the circumstances that we're seeing now. Like the fact that red pilling is becoming almost a mainstream phenomenon, that people are just waking up in droves now. So this is the truth vibrations, and this guy is like, it seems like he's a carrier of this thing. He's the prime carrier of this thing. I mean, a lot of people talk about, they made fun of him about saying he was the son of the Godhead and the Christ and all this stuff. The typical the first Wogan interview thing, that fiasco that happened, and all this stuff. I mean, a lot of the truthers as well still are not really on board with that. They're like, who the fuck is this guy? He thinks he's like an Aquarian age Jesus. But dear God, after what I saw that day, man, I'm telling you, he pretty much is. It's like he really, if you think about it, I mean, let's say push time 500 years in the future. Say it's like 2,500, the year 2,500. So who knows how we're going to be keeping records at that time and stuff, if we still have the internet, if we haven't blown ourselves up by then or whatever. Let's say that we don't, and it just keeps going along as it is. They're going to be talking about this guy as having been the premier herald of this great awakening. They will. So now we're living in amazing times. We're living in the most incredible time a person could possibly be living in on this planet, because we're in the nexus. We're right in the middle of it. We're at the time when it changes not only from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age. It's, as a lot of you may know, it's changing. We're in the middle of a 12,500 year change. Well, I mean, the big, what's it called? Precession of the equinoxes. I mean, the full cycle is what? I don't remember now off the top of my head. 25 and a half, 25 something, or 26. All right, so let's say about 26. So every 12,500, 13,000 years, roughly, it changes from, it's like a yin and yang. It goes from dark to light. So now we're entering like another 12,500 years of amazing, like I don't even know what to call it, amazing blank. I don't know what to put there. It's just going to be, there's no words for it really. That's why I'm not saying, I'm hesitant to actually put a term on it, to label it. I don't want to put it in a box. It's just limitless, I guess. The possibilities are limitless. So from the fall of Atlantis till now, it's been a relatively dark period. I mean, it hasn't been all bad, but what we're going to get from now on, and for the same time period, for as long as it's been since Atlantis, fall of Atlantis till now, we're going to get the equivalent, for the equivalent time period, we're going to get an extremely positive period. So now, and we're right in the middle of the changeover of that right now. So this guy is going to go down in galactic history, man. This is huge. I mean, and I saw this stuff. Like, I mean, what I saw that day, basically put together with all the stuff he says in his books, put together with how he describes his experiences previous, like a year prior to writing his first book, and going and seeing that psychic lady who told him about the fact that he's going to write X amount of books within a certain number of years, and it ended up coming true, and all that story that he keeps saying, that when he thought he felt this entity sort of being around him at all times for many months, and he eventually yelled at it or something. He said, you drive me crazy, just tell me, who are you, what are you? All this stuff that he's been saying, you put that together with what he's done from that till now, and how accurate his I don't want to say predictions, but I don't know what other word to use, because it's not, I don't want to say he's not like a Nostradamus type of character. He's more like, he's a researcher, but he does have that Nostradamus-esque ability too. So he's like, like Jesus coming back and becoming a researcher, okay, an author, a dot connector. He really is kind of like that combination, plus stand-up comic, because it's pretty funny. So I saw this. I mean, you don't really, you can deduce all this stuff from the circumstantial evidence. Like I said, you look at, and also the fact that his story of how he began, of all these things that happened to him in his early days of his awakening, you will note that not once has his story deviated. It's almost like, this is not to disparage him. I'm just saying, because I got like a sarcastic humor sometimes, and people take it the wrong way. But I'm just saying in a funny way. It's almost like it's like it's a recording that he switches on. It's like a broken record. Every time you hear him describing that thing, it's the same thing. It's like the same line, same story. He says there's no holes. What I'm saying is there's absolutely no holes in his story. And as I was saying earlier on, that I've had similar experiences. I've also had, this is another thing that's happened to me, aside from, the fact that I've had similar Kundalini awakenings where the body shakes and you think you're being electrocuted, and then you feel like charged up by spirit and everything changes around you, and then all these synchronicities start happening. You're basically being pumped with spiritual energy, really. That's like a very sort of a very crude, practical way of describing the phenomenon of the Kundalini awakening. But also the other non-spiritual things, like, well, they are, because they're synchronistic, but they're not of a psychic nature. It's basically just things happening out of nowhere, where you didn't plan them to happen, but then you look back in retrospect, and when you connect all the events together, months, years later, you're like, wow, this was meant to be. It's like part of my life mission. So it was encoded in me. When I was born in this life, this was meant to happen. So, I mean, with him, it was things like where it was quote unquote meant to be for him to end up having that position as a television guy, whatever he was, weatherman. No, he wasn't a weatherman. He was the sports commentator or whatever. I don't care. I don't give a shit about that stuff, because I loathe television. I haven't got a TV. I don't watch news or anything. But yeah, he was whatever. He had that gig there on the television channel. So that, I mean, and people see, again, the skeptical people say, but they wouldn't have, if he was not a shill, they would not have allowed him on TV and blah blah blah. That's such bullshit, because the thing is, he was just a regular guy working on the television, and he had his awakening later, out of freaking nowhere, at 40 or 41 or whatever it was, So this was part of the contract, I guess, that he had made for this life. It was meant to be like that. Like, these events were supposed to happen. He was supposed to end up in that job. I mean, he wanted to be a soccer player, didn't he? But then he couldn't. I mean, his ego desire was to be to play soccer, but because he got the arthritis from a young age, he had to quit that. So whether he liked it or not, one thing led to another, and he ended up working in that job that he had. just before the Wogan interview, when he was known. I mean, the only thing he was known for at the time was for being the BBC sports presenter guy. So this was meant to happen. He was like a hack. He was like a glitch in the Matrix. It was designed for a guy that was already in that position of prominence to have a sudden awakening, and then to start saying all this crazy stuff because he already had the platform and nobody expected him to say all this crazy shit. So this is why Wogan and all that stuff put him on, because I was like, it's not like some massive, extraordinarily elaborate controlled opposition game where it's like, let's insert this guy from a young man, from when he's a young man, put him in the BBC, and then 20 years later feed him information and put him on the do interviews to make him popular, pretend to make fun of him, but really behind the scenes the real reason we're doing it is so we can make this stuff popular, and then throw the turd in the punch bowl, put the arsenic, a little bit of arsenic in, and start talking about the reptilians so that we can ridicule the entire truther scene. I mean, people that say this about the reptilians, you see, this is the problem. It's because they've never experienced, they haven't switched on their right brains. That's the problem. So if you have not experienced the reptilian stuff, like in person, with your third eye, with your astral vision, with from a right brain perspective, you can't. It's just words. It's just stuff you see a guy talking about on a video or reading or saying it in his book. So you're like, what is this? Reptilians, like people. No one's going to believe it if they don't experience. Well, people do. I mean, you've had it. There's those of us who subconsciously, like, they have this gut feeling, they know that it's true because it's a real thing. So there's people that understand it without necessarily having to witness these things in person. But I mean, it does help when you're able to see these things yourself. But anyway, and now, similarly to how Icke kind of accidentally on purpose ended up in the position he was, and just magically, quote unquote, became famous overnight almost, because he was already well known. See, that's the thing. Similar things have happened to me. I mean, I've had this channel. If you go and look on the page, it says I started it in February 2010, and then because the monetization stuff was a bit harder to do then. Well, at the moment it's completely demonetized, but that's another story. But yeah, there was basically you couldn't turn it into a job back then, so I got super excited with it the first year or so, but then I got burned out. So basically what I'm saying is it has gone through periods of being dormant, very active and very dormant, this channel. So there was a period where I had stopped for a long time making videos, mid to late 2013, late 2013, where I magically, just the way Icke, got caught into this whole thing, like from being from BBC sports presenter to suddenly saying I'm the son of the Godhead on Wogan, in a much smaller way. Like it's like a fractal of the Icke thing, like a smaller kind of a microcosm version of that. I had my own little thing on Facebook. I've mentioned it a lot on Facebook posts too. Like the people that know me on there know this. Like my story never changes. There's no holes in it like Icke's. Like basically, I hated Facebook. Well, not hated. Well, yeah, I hated it because someone forced me to get a Facebook account because he wanted to communicate on Facebook instead of through email, or through text, which I did not understand at the time. So he busted my balls to do it, so I did it. But it was like a spam account technically. I mean, I don't think for the longest time, I think for years, this was like in 2008, 10 years ago, I got a Facebook account. This roommate, he forced me. But it didn't have a picture on it or anything. Like, I had a couple of people from overseas. That's it. I never used it. Like, I didn't have, like, quote-unquote friends, like all these people. I had a girlfriend a few years after that, and she, to her, it was like when I told her I did not have many Facebook friends, if any. It was like if I had told her I was a serial killer with a straight face, she probably would not have reacted as bad. Like, you should have seen her reaction when I said I don't really have Facebook friends. So for her, that was like, that was it. That was social proof. It was like, if you haven't got social friends on Facebook, you're nothing. You haven't got friends. So that was news to me. And this was late 2012 and early 2013. So then, 6 months or so later, magically, I fell into the Facebook rabbit hole, which Facebook truther, alternative spiritual truther rabbit hole, which I didn't even know. I didn't even know things such as Facebook groups existed. I just thought people just had profiles. I thought, what's a group? Someone added me to some truther group after a post comment I made on a post or something. So it's happened. I don't even know. See, I remember how it happened, but it's just, I can't even to go back and describe the whole process of what one thing led to another and how it kind of what the first domino was that led to that. It's mind blowing. I can write I can keep talking for 10 hours about it. So, but it's very, very reminiscent of all this. It's like this theme. There's a constant theme with Icke, where all these things just quote unquote happen. And he's like, even with his books, where he says, oh, this information just comes to me, like I just meet all these people. And then he looks back at it later on, and he's like, crap. It's like the exact people and researchers and insiders and all this stuff that I needed at the time, they all came to me. It's like the universe, everything just falls in his lap because it was pre-designed. Some past life contract, pre-life contract that he made to have all these things come in at these particular moments. So in a similar way, like I said with the Facebook thing, I never used it. I never logged in. It literally looked like a spam account because I had no picture on it. I had not filled any of the interests, blah blah blah, none of the information. There was no info. It was just my name and no picture. A couple of people, about 15 or 20 friends from overseas. I hated it. So, and then magically one thing led to another, and I found that there was a magical new world, a magical universe, a parallel universe of all these truthers. Like, it's like I literally felt like I had found, the way you feel when you reconnect with your long-lost brother or something. But it was like that, but it was like thousands of them, brothers and sisters. It was just, I can't even I have a tendency to keep talking about this because I love talking about it because it was a fascinating period, right? So it was amazing. And, if you had asked me 5 minutes before that started, I never would have thought. I thought, what? Are you kidding me? Me? Becoming obsessed with Facebook and creating this whole network, all these truther people on Facebook. So that just happened out of nowhere, right? So then I forgot about YouTube completely for a time. I tried here and there, but it was too much work to focus on videos and stuff. But then I got obsessed with Facebook. So then I made a bit of a name for myself. And I'm not David Icke, but the thing is, it is the identical kind of, the story has kind of like the identical template, let's say, like how a lot of the fantasy adventure stories use that the hero's journey template from the Joseph Campbell book, Hero with 1,000 Faces. Well, this one, it's like this thing had the same kind of template. It all happened just the way Icke describes his kind of, I don't know, 180 or whatever, or the beginning of his current career. I don't know what to call it. I mean, his awakening. But then I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the actual fact of how the events came together, of meeting people and stuff. It's basically the universe helps you become famous if it wants you to. So if you have a job to do, and this information wants to, I mean, God, the Prime Creator, wants this info to get out there, it's going to put people in the spotlight. Like, it's going to, I mean, Jordan Peterson is another one again. He's kind of like the academic version of David Icke. It happened to him too. It's like out of freaking nowhere. So this is how it works. So, I mean, and because I've had this experience, these experiences, more like it, both the Kundalini stuff, plus being never in a million years thinking I would ever be interested in social media, and then suddenly this thing happens, and within like 6 months, within a year after that, after I fell into the Facebook rabbit hole, I had a dozen of my own Facebook groups, truther and spirituality themed groups. I was on it basically 25 hours a day because I was doing a course at the time, a music teaching diploma, and then when that finished, I was I was looking for work after that. So I was basically on unemployment benefits. So basically for that time, and again, it was divine timing. It was perfect. It was like during that time, because I was studying, and then after that, after I finished, whatever, in early to mid 2014, then I wasn't working. I just, stopped. I finished the course and I was just sitting, waiting to see what I was going to do. So it was that perfect time to have a lot of free time to focus on the Facebook thing. And then it happened, and then things changed, and then I got busier, and then it sort of died down a bit and whatever. But it was that initial impetus that was needed. It happened with divine perfect timing. So there's so many examples of this stuff happening, but I mean, this one is the biggest one for me that's ever happened, and it's the most similar sounding to Icke's claims of how he, it's like, oh, one day I was a BBC presenter, and then the next thing you know, and about a year later I was like that kind of stuff. And you see him and you're thinking, is this guy bullshitting now, or did he really? I mean, who is this dude? And then he talks about reptilians, so he must be a shill. Why would Wogan put him on? But then when these things happen to you, you start thinking, this is a bit way too similar to Icke's story to be a coincidence. You're like, wait a minute. I mean, maybe he just is exactly what he says he is, and that's it. Don't overanalyze it too much. I mean, his story, not once. Go through every single video that ever exists, that's ever been uploaded, that has David Icke on it, talking about this very story of, how he made the switch from blue pill to red pill, whatever he's talking about, the Peruvian mound or whatever, all these things. Not one of them. I mean, you can do a project if any of you want to. You can go and find every single instance of where he's said this stuff and try to cross-reference between each other to see if there's any discrepancies on any of the statements. There isn't. It's like every single time his story doesn't change, and you can tell also. I mean, not in a psychic sense, like I was saying, how I can see people's energy when I'm in face to face. I'm talking about, you can tell even from a left brain type of, like in a psychologist type of way, by their body language and stuff. You can kind of tell when someone's lying. All right, and particularly, I think, I don't remember off the top of my head now, but there's all these tells. They say that, like, if the person looks to the left and downwards or something, there's something like that. There's a particular direction where they look, their eyes look when the actual lie comes up. Like they could be saying something and then there's something that's not true, then suddenly they'll shift their eye for even a split second and back. There's all these tiny little tells. This guy, you can just see it. He's just blatantly saying, oh, this happened, blah, blah, blah. He's describing it as if he doesn't flinch. He doesn't bat an eyelid. You don't see any tension in his body or anything. He just says it very naturally, and it flows as if he's literally describing something that actually happened. Like he's not hiding anything. He's not, he hasn't memorized it from some script that his grandfather Rockefeller gave him or anything. He's just the guy that did it, and it's the real deal. All right. So I mean, I would not have been saying this now in the way that I said it had I not seen and experienced all that stuff that day when I saw him live. But now, I mean, it's beyond a shadow of a doubt. I mean, I'm sure there's still going to be people that won't accept this even after hearing this. I mean, look, and the other thing also is that technically, if I really want to live by what I preach, what I claim to, the rules that I live by, technically I should not expect people to just take, just because I went there and had these experiences and saw these things like and felt this stuff, doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean you have to take it on board now. So, but I'm just saying, hopefully I'm thinking that a lot of people might be helped, might sort of be the ones that are on the fence, at least, might be shifted towards the pro-Icke side. The ones that completely hate him probably are not even going to watch this video in the first place. I probably wouldn't subscribe to a channel like this anyway to begin with. But, I did have a strong feeling to make this video now, because it's long overdue. So I think it's good. It'll help make him. We're gonna create some more David Icke fans. Why not? I mean, the guy's a real deal. There's nothing really that he's said that. I mean, okay, I can get into the fact that he's not really. Technically, he's not an occultist. I mean, sometimes he looks, especially in the early days, every little symbol, like the gargoyles and everything he saw, like, oh, gargoyles on churches, oh my God, satanic. He kind of is one of those people that saw the occult as being totally bad. He didn't differentiate between white and black magic, and even today, like, he really does. He has grown a lot, he does understand it a lot, but even himself, he never, he doesn't call himself an occultist or a magician, so I guess that's the only criticism you can lay onto David Icke. But the thing is, you get what you pay for. You don't expect that from him. That's not his thing. I mean, he's more of a mystic. He's more of a Gnostic type of illuminator. Like, he doesn't need the symbolism and the occult stuff and the ceremonial magic and all the formulae that they use. He doesn't actually have to read all the Crowleyan type of stuff and do evocations and blah 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 and do the LBRP to have a powerful aura. I mean, believe me, I saw it. His aura is powerful enough. Yeah, you can take that to the bank. To the Red Shield Rothschild Zionist bank. So the guy, yeah, he's the real deal. It doesn't matter because there's people also. See, there's another thing. There's other people. Also, there's probably a fourth category, because I said there's the pro-Icke, there's the ones that are in the middle, and the ones that totally hate him because they are, because their cesspool vibration cannot comprehend that the guy is the real deal. And they can't, because they can't sense the things that he talks about. It was, the reptilians is bullshit, they hate him. So, screw those people. I'm saying it here on record. Screw those people. I don't want to associate with them. Go away. Don't subscribe if you're one of those people. So, but the thing is, There's probably within the category of the people that are Icke fans, there's also like a subcategory. There's some of them that are full-on occultists, and they don't take him while they realize there's something there. They also feel that he's lacking, like that perhaps he should be more occult oriented, and more of an occultist than just a Christian Gnostic type of, Christed type of high vibration individual. That sort of, I guess Icke is just like an intuitive Christed individual. Like, he's made a massive connection with the Christ consciousness. He just gets his information downloads out of nowhere. He gets just tremendous, extraordinary amount of synchronistic happenings in his life. Just everything just seems to flow along in ways that would blow our minds if it happened to us, even like for a single day or a week. With this guy, it's been happening like that for the past 20 years, or 25 years, ever since he flew down the rabbit hole. So, jumped down the rabbit hole. So basically, I don't want to just keep repeating this. The guy's a real deal, and that's it. Those who are already fans, well, I really didn't need to say this, but for the people that were doubting, they're going to be helped now. And plus, also, one more thing, I'm looking at my notes here on the laptop. I forgot to say this before, like when the quote-unquote truth vibrations were hitting me in the during the lecture, I got to tell you what happened afterwards. Like, when I got home, I laid down in bed, and it was like, and again, I'll mention the Reiki thing, like, for those of you that have had energetic healing of that type would know now what I'm talking about. It's like, whenever you have a deep session with one of these things, whatever, Reiki, pranic healing, or so forth, whatever, but usually it's Reiki with me, because I think that's the best out of the lot. So you're out of it. Basically, you're out of it. You're knocked out. Every time I have a session by a pro, I just go home and lie down, and you basically you're either just out of it, like in an altered state, or you literally sleep. But even if you're not, it's just, you may as well have been asleep, because it's just, you're out of it. Like, you're not in a state to be doing 3D stuff. You're not in your own world for the day, for the next 24 hours or whatever. So your energy becomes realigned. You're too spaced out. You need a bit of a reset. You need to sleep it off. All right. So I had that same thing after I came back. I laid down in bed. I was knocked out by the massive truth vibration that he hit me with for 6 hours straight, minus the break, the little break they had at about 4 or whatever. And it was like, man, I felt I had gotten like 100 Reiki healings all at once. It was, I don't even, like, there's no word to describe it. It was incredible. Like, it really was like getting a massive, super concentrated dose of energy healing, and it was overwhelming. And I felt, I mean, this might sound extreme, but hey, it fits in with the whole theme of this video, I guess. So anything goes now. After saying that I saw a 12 meter tall angel above Icke's head for 6 hours straight, well, the next thing is not going to sound too far-fetched. Basically, what I was going to say was, I literally felt like my life trajectory shifted. It's like, because I got that massive infusion of that light energy, let's say, I felt it was almost like, I mean, I don't know if any of you are like fans of the Violet Flame now, which apparently is the actual Philosopher's Stone. the violet flame actually transmutes. It has the power to burn away and reverse bad karma, right? So this is kind of the effect it had. At that time, I was not using the violet flame back then. I started doing that regularly around early to mid 2013. So this was, about almost 2 years before I started using the violet flame properly. But the closest thing I can liken it to is just the way that it was a violet flame-like effect. Like, I really did feel that my life, like, somehow some kind of, like, I don't really know how to put this. Sorry guys that I haven't really written out the notes in detail. I've just put, like, I've done it in bullet points, and I'm kind of the rest is just pretty much free association, because I just going by memory of what I experienced. It's essentially, okay, that this is how it happened. It's like my life mission. It accelerated, like it pushed me closer to wherever I was meant to go. Like, let's say if you want to think of it in terms of time, maybe I'd fallen a year behind, or I was 6 months behind, or maybe I was 2 years ahead. I'd been a very good boy and done a lot of meditating, a lot of studying, and a lot of good deeds, and I was already ahead with what I was meant to accomplish at that time. Wherever I was, though, that day that I saw him, I made a quantum leap. Okay, so this is kind of like I will make videos at some point about the violet flame. I have a hell of a lot to say about that. But anyway, I don't want to veer off now because I've done it too much in this video. But it did have that effect. Like, I can't, there's no other way really. I don't really know how to describe it other than just saying it was like a mega super duper, like it was a 5 billion kilowatt. It was like a nuclear truth vibration bomb, like I was saying earlier. Like, imagine it like one of those laser cannons on the Death Star, like from the A New Hope, the original Star Wars, the first movie. In the end, where the X-wings are flying, where the camera is showing like the close range, the Death Star, and those cannons are trying to hit the ships. Imagine one of those cannons, but it's shooting a truth vibration at you for 6 hours, and it was incredible. And it was a super concentrated dose, like I said, like 100 Reiki sessions at once. So essentially the effect that it had was that it accelerated the path. Okay, so a lot of, I don't remember now what happened in the near future afterwards. I don't know what happened a week or month later, but I'm sure that a lot of synchronistic stuff would have happened immediately afterwards. It was amazing. So that's my experience, boys and girls, of witnessing the Icke in person. So if that doesn't do it, I don't know what will. Like I said, you're not obligated to just take my word for it. But I'm hoping that the people that are already convinced that my psychic insight and all that stuff, my right brain abilities, are the real deal from other stuff, from my writings and other channelings and automatic writings and insights that I make. Well, if that's anything to go by, well, hopefully you can take my stamp of approval, so to speak, for David Icke as a reliable one. and I'd like to see this video help a lot of people reconsider their slightly negative or very negative view of the great David Icke. Hope you enjoyed, and sorry if at certain points it was a bit rambling, because this time I deliberately did not want to structure the video too much. Like I only typed out bullet points and just going by memory and stuff and by feeling, and hopefully turned out well and hasn't bored a lot of you. So share it around, because this is important for a lot of people to know this about David Icke. I don't know if anyone ever online has ever written an article or made a video talking about a similar having a similar experience at an Icke lecture. So it'll be I guess it's an interesting, an original story as well. So hopefully most of you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, share it around, and I'll see you again soon. Last but not least, I want to tell you a bit about my science fantasy novel, Lifting the Curse, the first book in the 9-part Galactic Independence War Saga. This is a book that has practically been custom made for people who enjoy the topics covered on this and other similar YouTube channels. I'm confident you guys will love it. And by the way, all patrons get a free copy of the first installment. An exciting fantasy and sci-fi epic in the vein of classics such as Star Wars, The Lord of the Rings, Dune, Harry Potter and the like, Lifting the Curse differs in that it is set on Earth in the modern day and combines contemporary real-life conspiracy theories, cutting-edge spirituality and occultism, all interlaced with a strong element of whodunit conspiracy thriller that just keeps you guessing to the end. One way of putting it, perhaps, is that it's like the Da Vinci Code on steroids, taking that thriller template and using it to tell an epic science fantasy tale with tons of swashbuckling action thrown in there as well. Having first received the idea for the saga in a vision during a powerful meditation session back in early 2005, this book is more or less a channeled work, many of the themes it touches on ringing uncannily true, prophetic even. From the moment the idea was given to me in that meditation session, I always saw this book more as a mission to help red pill the planet than as an ordinary job. It's certainly no accident then that despite my best efforts to have it out by December 2012 and even earlier, it seemed to have a divinely allotted timing of its own and ended up coming out in 2018 at the dawn of the Great Awakening. It is clear both from the way in which it was conceived and from how it was affected those who have already read it, that this work is destined to play a major role in helping the current awakening grow exponentially and one day become a mainstream normal. The book also contains dozens of detailed endnotes which delineate the key alternative topics mentioned throughout. It can also be a great way to subtly red pill a friend or family member who may still be under the dark spell of mainstream media, religion, statism, and so on. Simply present it to them as being just another fantasy book and watch how the powerful information contained within starts to slowly change them for the better. So go ahead, grab the first installment, Part 1 A New Dawn now by clicking on the Amazon link in the description box below for only 99 cents. And remember, guys, this is not just another fantasy novel. It's a mission to help Red Pill the planet.